Moving on, if we look at production-related levers, we also see the need to reduce manufacturing cycle times. So how long does it take to get product through the plant? There's lots of activity going on with continuous improvement programs inside of plants. We need to, I strongly believe that we need to be collecting information as a byproduct of the process. So we don't want people kind of gathering information, filling out forms, updating spreadsheets, and sending it to management to analyze something the next day. It needs to be current shift. It needs to be immediate feedback, and you need to be able to collect this information without having somebody actually put their fingers on a keyboard. It should fall out of the process. Another thing that we should do is, the last 7 times this product ran on the line, it ran poorly. So when it comes up again, what are we going to do differently this time? So we need to have a pre-run kind of huddle saying, hey, you know, we fell outside of our operating parameters the last 7 times. This is why we did it. What are we going to do different this time? Because if we don't, then the 8th time will probably look like the last 7, and we won't be happy with the results. We also need to improve production responsiveness and changes in customer demand, and I kind of touched on that, where every production order should be tied back specifically to a sales order for a customer. So if something changes, you know immediately on the floor what needs to change. If we look at inventory efficiency, efficiency of utilization, we need to establish, I call it right-sizing programs. So it's not necessarily all about reducing your inventory, but it is about finding the right size of inventory and measuring inventory turns. I personally believe you should be measuring turns at the SKU level, right? So every SKU should be measured, not some abstract concept where you go to the GL account and you look at the balance of your raw materials and you go, this is my return. You need to be able to do it at the SKU level. Again, it has to fall out of the process. Nobody should have to create a spreadsheet to analyze this information, which speaks to you need some very good, tightly integrated tools to make that happen. Understanding the pegging of supply and demand relationships, maintaining your bills of materials. So when something runs on the floor and it doesn't run as planned, there should be a feedback mechanism back to the engineering group to say, hey, this is the scrap rate or this is the run rate, and those bills of materials should evolve. You know, too often they're created and then they're left stagnant, and they really don't reflect either the amount of time it takes or the materials that it takes to produce the product. We need to develop some vendor programs. I've seen ways of improving inventory efficiency by having the vendors actually come in and participate with the plant, open the kimono, right? Let the vendors in to have a look at what your production schedule is, and then let them actively participate, ensuring that they get their material to you in time to support the production effort. This can be a little bit challenging because you may want to last minute, you know, be able to swap out a different vendor, find a lower cost vendor, but some work needs to be done here to analyze the benefit of lowest cost and the effort to kind of source that every order versus some kind of a strategic relationship with key vendors, then have them actively participate in improving your inventory efficiency. In terms of production equipment efficiency, we need to rationalize lineups and order sizes. So we have to have some tools to be able to understand capacity utilization. We really should be freezing the production schedule for a period of time. And I know that anybody in manufacturing will kind of like look at me strange because that's not real, but to the extent that you can actually lock down a schedule for a shift, 2 shifts a day, it really gives you an opportunity on the floor to have the floor drive out some efficiencies. They can stage materials. They can run the line better. So we need to kind of take a good look at that. We should also be integrating all of our production-related plans. So preventive maintenance plans, forecasts, real demands, they all should come together into a common plan so you can see what's coming down the line and understand what the impact is of either changes in production performance or changes in customer demand and being able to respond effectively. Having historical data to spot trends and plan accordingly is very important, and we talked about that earlier. Last 7 times it ran poorly. What's it going to run like next time, and what are we doing about it? In-shift feedback, so make sure that there are tools in place to tell the person on the line as they're running the job how well they're running. Give them immediate feedback. They're running at 70% of expected run rate. Maybe you split that up and you measure how quickly did they do their changeover, because maybe they did a great job on the changeover and they should be patted on the back. As they're running, they're not doing so well. Quite often these performance indicators get all lumped together, and usually, you kind of beat on the operator on the floor for not performing. Meanwhile, they did an outstanding job in one area, and so having an opportunity to measure that electronically, feed it back immediately, give them positive feedback is important to get improved performance. The other thing is with that, we really do not want to wait until 10 o'clock the next day after everybody and their dog has had a chance to monitor and massage the management report that goes to the VP of Operations. It's too late, fully massaged, and a ton of time went into non-productive activities to get there. Anyways, that's about it. I see there are many opportunities. There's truly many opportunities to improve performance. Resources are scarce, and we need to have smart, efficient, and reliable mechanisms in place to execute if we're going to kind of beat the competition and grow profitably. All right. Mike?
All right, thanks, Frank. That's some good stuff. On to the next slide. So one of the tools that we've looked at over the years amongst many different ERP products is a product from Microsoft called Dynamics AX. It was previously known as Ideaca, for those of you who've been tracing this for a little longer. Nucleus Research has been researching AX, I think, at least over 5 years. And what's interesting is they've analyzed hundreds of AX deployments and gone out to those customers and obtained feedback, post-implementation to see what the real results were of their Dynamics AX implementation. And I think they've got some great quotes from those customers about what sort of value they've received, and those values will be potentially useful for you folks for what you could look for in your implementation. Of course, everybody's coming from a different point. The organizations, as it says here, are coming from a paper-based process, can expect substantial increases in productivity. One example that's quoted in the document is a customer that was able to increase their order volume by 50% while keeping their shipping staff flat. They were happy to increase their customer service staff to take those orders, of course, but that's a substantial increase in orders without a big impact on the shipping organization. In terms of inventory, and Frank's talked about that, companies would typically expect to get approximately 10 to 15% reduction in inventory by having the visibility of what's going on in their operation. And another good example quoted is how a customer was able to reduce their ERP support, reducing the IT support costs by up to 70% by moving from an Oracle-based product to Dynamics AX. So there's a lot of great quotes in that document, and our plan is to email that out to everybody who is on this call. And I think you'll find that it's a fairly quick read. But there are some great materials for you to review and to find value in. There's a further research report which we didn't note here, but I think I should draw your attention to, and that is that Gartner did some research in 2009, and and placed AX as the only product in its leader and visionary quadrant for Tier 2 ERPs. And that's a good testament to the competition that Microsoft faced in terms of the ERP marketplace and the vision that it has for where it's taking the Dynamics AX product. All right, so what is Ideaca doing? We've recognized that customers need a flexible, configurable package that can adapt to their organization, but what they're trying to do is also minimize their costs and their risks with an implementation. Many of us have heard the various horror stories of implementations that have gone wrong, etc. And what we're trying to do is to address that by providing a product that leverages the best capabilities of Dynamics AX. So what we've done is we've pre-configured a Canadian company with a lot of preset environment elements such as financial, sales, purchasing, inventory, and production. And we've also packaged up with that the training materials and things like data conversion, which can always be a little tricky, and role-based security. We don't need to reinvent those wheels. Those can be shared with everyone. But still, again, mentioned earlier, to be able to provide you the configurable capabilities of a system that you need to adapt to your business processes and what makes you successful. So we've called that IDART, and on the next slide here, what we're going to show you is a bit of an overview. So in terms of the levers and the challenges that Frank was discussing earlier, we're going to show inside of the AX environment and our IDART setup some production scheduling and order management, which addresses some of the workforce productivity issues. We're going to show just a simple way to show the product costs in terms of the cost price and sales price, providing the visibility of your margin and controlling costs. And last, I'll show you a little bit of a scenario around available to promise, which seems to be a very common challenge for getting our sales and our customer service groups visibility into what the capability on the production floor is.